It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of A Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank Show, and I'll tell you, if you listened to our show Tuesday, you heard I was pretty peeved, and I was really frustrated about a lot of things in terms of, well, in particular the Paycheck Protection Program. I saw one of these articles from New York Times, perfect example. 1% of PPP borrowers got over 1/4 of the loan money. You know, sadly, it's not surprising that the well-connected and the more, I guess well-connected is a good word, got a lot or got a lion's share of the funds that was supposed to go to small business, quote unquote. Now, of course, the government's, that's a problem I have with the government, is I find in so many cases are so out of touch of what the real world is. It's Washington versus, I would say it's Washington and Wall Street versus Main Street, right? And they're so out of touch in terms of that because, well, the Small Business Administration defines a small business as a company with 500 or less employees. You know, first of all, a company with 200, 300, 400 employees is probably not a small business, and think by most people's estimation. Secondly, that's such an outdated measure of the size of a business, particularly with technology. So much more can be done with so fewer employees today that it's an antiquated way to measure. I mean, maybe gross revenues or something would be a better measure. I don't know. It sure seems to me to be that way. You think they would try to update a little bit their, but you know, like I said Tuesday, it's like a horse with blinders. The horse is just walking down the street, doesn't see anything to the left or the right, and they just don't know what they don't know. I don't know if it's intentional. I just think they're just so out of touch they don't even realize they're out of touch. I remember comments about some of the programs that were offered, particularly back in March, April, May timeframe, where I think it was the Treasury Secretary said, I don't know of anybody that's looking for a loan under $1 million. And I was like, are you kidding me? In fact, a recent thing came out, I think 82% of borrowers, business owners stated that, they would need less than $100,000 to help them get through the next 6 months or so. And if it was a low interest loan or forgivable thing or something like that, that'd be greatly helpful. Okay. Again, it's a matter of just being so out of touch, of not being, and that's where I have the problem. That's where my issues stem from, having large government bureaucracy. It needs to be more broken down, more local, state, local levels. And frankly, in most cases, they're just not qualified to be dealing with it anyway. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're government employees. No offense, but they don't understand business, okay? I'm a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I've owned 4 companies. I'm in the process of starting a bank when the time makes sense, which we're hoping some point in 2021 we'll do so. I'm an entrepreneur. I would be first to admit I don't really understand, I'm not an expert in government employment. Because I've not done that. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I get that. There's a difference. There's a massive difference. But the thing is, these companies who took big chunks of money because they were allowed to. I mean, the loans they could get a loan of up to $10 million. They're using examples of like steakhouse chains owned by Ted Turner. One of New York's biggest horse tracks received the maximum loan of $10 million. Okay. It was supposed to be aimed at small business, and small businesses are struggling, and now they're getting more shutdowns. The restaurants and the gyms and the places that are getting hammered, those are the folks that needed the assistance. Okay. Tom Brady got $1 million apparently from PPP for his businesses, and then recently just bought $1 million yacht. Now, I don't know if the two are connected, but it sure doesn't look good. Am I against Tom Brady about doing that? No. Did he break any rules? Probably not. But it doesn't look good. Did he need the $1 million for his business? Really? Governor Newsom, California, received something like nearly $3 million. He has several businesses he owns. he's a very wealthy individual himself and the governor of California, and has, in fact, imposed a lot of these rules, restrictions on a lot of these businesses. Should he have received, or did he need the almost $3 million? I don't know. It doesn't look good. You see what I'm trying to say? It should have been approached. Well, what should have happened? Well, if we want to go all the way back, what should have happened is the government shouldn't have shut down. My opinion is they overextended. They did too much, and they hurt a lot of people. Whether it was intentional or not, they're hurt. They hurt and are continuing to hurt a lot of people. They tried to offer some lifelines and some help. Didn't really go to the people who understood what would really help, and helped some to a degree, and allowed many others to take advantage of the situation and benefit from it. Which, unfortunately, when it comes to any type of government program or system, that's pretty much a natural result. And so I always say, when the government tries to resolve one problem, they typically cause two more. And I guess what I'm getting at is, whether intentionally or otherwise, I guess what I'm trying to get at is you can't count on the government to bail you out. Who can you count on? You. A lot of what your personal bank is about, and the appeal that it has for a lot of folks that I work with, is you're able to take control of your money again. Look, I mean, who earned the money? Who made the money? Whose money is it ultimately? And the answer is yours. Most cases, some people inherit, I understand. But in most cases, what I find when I work with clients and such is I'll make this statement, and it's very accurate. And I'll say, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they have a nest egg that they've been able to put together, I'll say, look, this probably didn't happen overnight, did it? You worked hard, you saved, you sacrificed, you put some away, you invested, you made some good decisions. Not all of them worked out, but you made more good ones than bad ones because you have a positive net result, right? And this is something you've done many times, not only over years, but over decades, to create this type of nest egg. Okay? And the answer is overwhelmingly yes, that's what was done. That's how it was done. That's how wealth is built most of the time. Okay? What I find disheartening, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, disconnect is probably a better word, is when somebody who's done that type of thing then looks to some other entity like the government to help them, assist them, or whatever. The government, in my opinion, I'm very libertarian in my focus, is, they're there to protect the common good, general defense, some commerce stuff, a few other things like that, like the Constitution says. And that's about it. Their job is basically to make sure everything runs smoothly and doesn't interfere with our lives, and let us do our thing. And we're going to talk more about how your personal bank allows you to do your thing, enhance your thing, increase the returns, reduce the taxes, and all that kind of good stuff. So stay tuned. Don't miss it.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
All right, welcome back to Your Personal Bank Show. I'm going to share with you one of the main reasons why I find this concept appeals to so many people I work with. First of all, I guess I should remind folks, what is your personal bank? It's really a concept where we use a bank financial tool and an insurance financial tool. We combine them or get them to work together, use synergy, we'll put it that way. And what we do is we set up a high cash value policy that's designed to maximize cash growth. This is not a policy most people are familiar with. It's designed to maximize cash day one and every year. Quick rule of thumb, 50 to 90% of the cash is available day one and increases from there. This is done on a tax-favored basis. There's high liquidity. Again, 50 to 90% liquidity day one, increases to over 100% in a few years. By structuring this way, we're maximizing cash growth and we're minimizing death benefit. Therefore, we're minimizing costs and fees also. So one of the most common objections, or whatever you want to call it, is people say, well, insurance, the cost of insurance. Well, we're minimizing it. So we just minimize the fees. Much smaller, much less than most people are familiar with. The other one is, well, I can't qualify, because do you have to qualify for life insurance? Yes, because you have the life insurance component. You have the cash component and the life insurance component. Do you have to qualify? Yes. Well, someone does. I'll put it that way. And many people say, well, I'm too old or my health won't allow me to do so. Well, the definition of too old, I had somebody a couple of weeks ago said he was too old and he was 46. I just laughed. I mean, we've had people successfully qualify up through age 79. Okay. So unless you're in your 70s, age is not an issue at all in most cases. And even if it is, we can still have workarounds. As far as health goes, most people overestimate some health issues. Let's put it this way. Somebody's in their 60s or 70s. The insurance companies don't expect them to have the health of a 30-year-old. What they're looking for is the health of an average 60 or 70-year-old. And as long as you're somewhere in that ballpark, at least somewhat average or slightly below average health, you're fine. You're going to qualify. The numbers will work. Even if that's not the case for you and your health is poor or that type of thing, well, you can always own it and allow somebody else to be the insured. Typically, that's done through trusts. Oftentimes, one of the children will be one of the insured. The trust is essentially the owner, beneficiary, and we set it up that way. And that's done very commonly. It's done all the time. Okay? So what I'm saying is don't allow age or health to cause you to think that you couldn't qualify for this or this couldn't benefit you, because it absolutely could. So again, the first step is we set up that high cash value policy designed to grow cash and minimize the death benefit on a tax-favored basis with guarantees. The second step is we set up a bank line of credit. We use the cash in the policy as collateral for the line. This is a this is a collateralized loan. Very simple to qualify for. Unless you have a judgment or lien, you're probably going to qualify. It's like one of the banks we work with has literally a one-page app. Usually gets approved in 2 or 3 days. Super simple to qualify for. There are no loan fees, no costs. You only get charged interest when you access and use the funds. So we encourage people even to set up their bank lines, even if they don't plan to use the monies, because there's no cost or downside to doing so. And then if they do have need, for some reason, have a need of funds, they have easy access to it. You have a bank account. You have a checkbook access. It's simple to access and use. And here's the beauty of it. We have companies, like I said, on the insurance side, that have been paying 6% plus dividends for the last 25 years plus, never missed a dividend since before the Civil War. Folks, that's powerful. That is long, strong, dividend-paying companies, huge cash reserves, A-rated, all that good stuff, well-positioned to continue to pay strong dividends for the foreseeable future. How's that? In fact, I'll show you a chart of all the top dividend-paying companies over the last 25 years. You're going to recognize many of those names. They're household names. They're multi-billion-dollar companies who've been around for well over a century. You'll see from the dividend payers and the rates I've been paying since 1996. Immediately, you'll know who you want to work with. Who's got the good track records on paying dividends long term. And like I said, if you're getting 6% dividends in your policy, and then if you leave it alone, of course, you're going to get credit 6% dividends, right? And it's going to grow and tax deferred. There's no taxes involved with it, and with guarantees, downside protection, all that good stuff. That's not bad, especially today. But then if you access it for whatever reason, you can access the money through the bank line, and guess what happens? If you're getting credited 6% dividends and you're getting charged, and basically the bank lines are in the 3% range, 3 to 3.95. So if you're earning 6 plus and you're getting charged in the 3s, what's your money doing? Well, you're keeping the difference. You're still making 2 or 3%, and that's called positive arbitrage, by the way. Now, here's the key point. Never forget this. That 2 or 3% positive arbitrage you'd be earning is on money you spent. Folks, that's the game changer. Show me, I challenge anyone to contact me and show me how to spend money and still yet earn interest on it. Okay? That's what we're doing because you're picking up the difference. You're keeping the difference, right? So my point is, how about earning interest on money you spent? By the way, do you ever spend any money? That's obvious answer. We all do, right? I mean, there's a certain amount of cost just to live, right? Food, clothing, housing, stuff like that, right? Not counting the things that we want, we purchases that we make, right? Bills that we pay, whatever. My point is really simple. What if you picked up interest on the money you spent? How much do you spend a year? You know, what's the average household in America spend per year? Is it $50,000? Is it $75,000? Is it $100,000? I don't know. My venture to guess would be somewhere in that ballpark, right? What if you picked up 2 or 3% interest on, say, $50,000 a year? Would that make a difference? We'll add that up over the next decade. How about 2 or 3 decades? Oh, let's throw in compound interest in there. That's a lot of money. And here's the beauty of that. That's money that you wouldn't have seen any other way. Because remember, what did you do? You spent it, right? You paid bills. You bought things, right? The money's gone. You spent it. That's the power of the personal bank concept. That's where you start to take back control of your money. See, there's a concept I share when I do workshops and talk with people and stuff. And it's really about making your money work for you, but yet still maintaining control of it even after you send it out, allocate it elsewhere. See, most people understand getting their money to work for them. And that's the basic premise of investing, right? You take some dollars, you purchase an asset, and the asset and the intention is the asset increases in value, so you get a return, right? I mean, it's that simple. And what's happening is your money is working for you. It's your dollars are attracting more dollars. It's increasing the number of dollars. That's the basic premise of investing. But my point goes a step further. You can continue to do that. Obviously, you should continue to do that. But what about the dollars that you spend and go out the door? Are you earning any interest on those? And I'm talking about dollars you spend on bills and on purchasing items. Are you making any interest on that after you pay that bill or after you purchase the item? And the answer, of course, in the vast majority of cases is no. Stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to talk about this further, how you can earn interest on money you spent.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
All right, welcome back. We've been talking a lot about freedom and our money and control. In other words, who really controls your money? When you receive $1, when you earn $1, when that comes in, most of us put it into some kind of bank account, and then we choose to allocate it either to paying off a bill or an expense, purchasing an item, or we invest it into something to earn more dollars, right? I mean, that's pretty much the 3 primary things that we all do with money. Like I said, pay off debt, bills, expenses, purchase items that we want or need, or invest those dollars to make more dollars, right? Now, the thing is, the point I make is what most people do, and this is where your personal bank can make the difference, is on those dollars that you use to you spend, paying off bills, expenses, or you purchase items on. When you use those dollars to purchase those items or pay those bills, do you ever earn any interest on those dollars ever in the future? And of course, the answer is no, because you gave the dollar up to pay the bill or to purchase the item, right? So those dollars are gone. Whatever's left, you could invest, okay, and make more with those. But if you look at most people's budgets, the average American household, the average business, what you'll find is a majority of the dollars that come in are used to pay bills, expenses, and purchase things, right? And a small percentage is used to invest and to build and grow. And, we always talk about having a 10% savings rate or 15 or 20% savings rate. If you have a 20% savings rate, for example, you invest 20% of what you earn. That's much higher than the national average by far. In fact, most people don't even do 10%, okay? But my point is, even if you were doing that, still 80% of your money, 80, 90% or more of your money is still going out to pay bills and expenses and purchase items, right? So the vast majority of your earning power, and that's whether you're still working, whether you're retired, I don't really care. It doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. Most of us, once we're an adult, earn some kind of income, right? Or our household does, at least. Otherwise, we can't, unless we have a big nest egg we're dipping into. Most of us have some kind of income. And what I encourage and challenge people to do is start looking at that income, that flow that's coming in. What are you doing with it? Where's it going? And how much of it is working for you in the future? Now, a traditional financial advisor would tell you, hey, can you put 10% away, 15, 20%, whatever, and the rest you're using to pay bills and expenses, right? That's all well and good. The problem is a very small percentage of your total income is actually working for you in the future, right? Because again, most of those dollars went out the door on bills and expenses and purchasing items. So those dollars really, at least for the future growth, they do nothing for you, right? Yes, they can pay off expenses. Yes, they can pay bills. And yes, you can receive purchase items from them. But they don't do anything for future growth, do they? How do you gain control of those dollars? How do you still reap a benefit from those dollars while paying off the bills and purchasing the items? How do you earn some interest from those dollars? Continue to get those. How about getting 100% of your income earning something for you? Would that change the game, your financial situation, your financial future? Would that enhance the financial situation? I would venture to say the answer is yes, big time. And that's what we see. That's what happens. Can somebody implement this day one right out the gate in terms of earning interest on 100% of what they earn? For some people, yes, they can. They have the financial situation. We can implement that right away, fully. Others have to build into it. It might take several years to build into it. But so what? What if it took several years for you to build into a situation? I can think of one client of mine in particular. It took him about 5 years. But he now runs 100% of his personal, and he happens to own a practice. He's a doctor, or medical professional, I should say. 100% of his personal and business income through his personal bank. He then pays his bills and expenses through the bank line of credit, as we discussed earlier in the previous segment, and he earns some interest from all that. And he picks up 2 or 3% on all of his income. Not only his personal, but his business income. Folks, that's a significant amount of money. Think about that. Would that change your financial future? Yeah, it does for many, many people. Okay? That's one of the things of the true power of what your personal bank can do. And like I said, if you missed the last segment where I was talking about specifically more how it works and using the insurance policy with the bank line of credit, go to yourpersonalbank.com. Listen to the show or any of the previous shows. Get more information on it. Contact me. I'd be happy to talk to you about how we can implement this kind of plan to gain control of all the dollars that come into your possession, at least temporarily. In other words, you have a flow of money coming in. Most all of us do. Monies come in. And then when those monies go out the door, are you benefiting from those in terms of earning interest or anything in the future? That's the answer I want to change for you. What I want to change for most people, again, is the answer is no. We want to change that to a yes, to a resounding yes. Yes, I'm earning interest on money I spent last year. Oh, and the year before, and the 2 years. I've been doing this for almost 8 years now. I'm earning interest on some money I spent 7 or 8 years ago. Still today. And will next year and every year for the rest of my life. Over time, what happens? It just gets better. The term I like to use, it just gets gooder and gooder. And it's a funny way to express it, but people remember. And see, that's the area from a financial standpoint. It's a paradigm shift in thinking. I understand. It's a new way of thinking about money for the average individual. By the way, when you're dealing with, highly wealthy individuals, family offices, banks, corporate finance boards, places like that, this idea is shared and used and discussed frequently. At our bank board meetings, we've discussed this concept for our bank on several occasions and overwhelmingly in favor. Okay? Because it just makes sense. The average individual doesn't operate this way or think this way because, they just never, frankly, in most cases, never been introduced to the idea. There's a lot of reasons behind that. You can go to some of the other shows, or I can share with you some of those reasons. It's not time to go into that at the moment. But it's just not shared by the average American. That's one of my main primary motivations for doing the show, is to get the word out and educate people and help them understand, look, there's a different, better way of thinking about your money in terms on, I'm not saying change everything you do. That's something else that maybe is a little common misconception. I'm actually saying, look, just add one step and enhance everything you do. What do I mean by that? Well, actually, it's pretty simple. Earlier in the previous segment, I was talking a lot about gaining control of your money that you spend on expenses, bills, purchasing items, and on how to earn interest on those dollars even after you spent them and purchase those items, not only this year, but next year and every year the rest of your life. What I want to talk about in the next segment is how do you enhance the return on your investments? Your personal bank can do that too, so stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Alrighty, we're rounding third. We're coming into home on this one. But I'll tell you what, I've been sharing a very, very powerful and important thought. And that thought today is really about control. And what I mean by that is, how do you control your money? How do we control our money, not only while it's in our control, in our possession, but how do we reap a benefit on our money even after we use those dollars, say to purchase things, pay bills, pay off expenses? And like I said, your personal bank can do that. You can create a positive arbitrage. You can earn interest on money you spent this year, next year, the year after. I've been doing this for 7-8 years now. I'm earning interest on money I spent 7-8 years ago every year, and will continue to for the rest of my life. Well, if you understand compound interest over time, what ends up happening over a decade or two? Oh my gosh, folks, you're talking about a lot of money, okay? So if you missed it, go to yourpersonalbank.com. I highly encourage you to listen to the previous segments of this show. I go into it in depth. Of course, you can listen to any of the previously recorded shows or contact me. I'd be at yourpersonalbank.com. Be happy to talk to you about it, how this can work. But the last thought I want to share with folks today is, how can you increase the return on your investments? As I stated earlier, most of us, when we talk about our income, whether we're working, retirement, whatever, it doesn't matter. Most of our income is used to purchase items, pay bills, pay expenses, right? And a small portion, whether it's 10%, 15, 20%, whatever that may be, is then set aside and invested for the future and to grow and make more, right? Okay. I talked about how you can get a return on the majority of the money, the majority of the income flow, okay, even after you spend it. Now let's talk about the investment portion, because that's what a lot of people here focus on, particularly with Money Radio. Okay, standard basic investments, simple. You take dollars, you invest into an asset with the intention the asset will increase in value, so your money's growing. It's working for you, right? I mean, that's simple and basic. Most people understand. Now, whatever your rate of return is, obviously would depend on the investment and the risk and all the various factors involved, okay, in terms of what type of rate of return you receive. And there's tax consequences and various other factors you have to, factor in, determine, ultimately what your return is going to be, okay? And there's an element of risk, potentially, in terms of what you can earn or lose on those dollars, right? Well, whatever that is, that is. Okay, so if you're investing in something, you've already done that analysis. You've already done the risk analysis. You already determined this is the asset that you're willing or want to invest in, and with a reasonable expectation of a positive result. Otherwise, you wouldn't put the money there, right? You've already done all that, okay? If it's working, keep doing it. That's one of the main messages I tell folks all the time. I'm not here to interfere with what is working already. If it's working, continue to do it. If it's not working, of course, make adjustments, make changes. But keep doing what's working, right? But what about enhancing it? Let's say your average rate of return is 7%. Okay, it could be 10%, it could be 20%. I'm not here to discuss the rate of return. I don't really care what your rate of return is, because it is what it is, right? So whatever it is, right? Let's say it's 7. Just use that as an example. Your average rate of return over a long period of time, let's use the example of 7. Why? Well, I get that a lot. I hear that from a lot of people. But okay, fine, whatever. You can continue to do what you're doing and get your 7% rate or whatever it is, right? Or what if you implemented the personal bank concept to increase that rate of return? How do you do that? It's really quite simple. Again, we set up the high cash value policy. You take the funds and you put it into the policy. Again, this is not a policy most people are familiar with. It's designed to maximize cash growth and minimize the death benefit, which is the opposite of how most people view and use insurance, okay? So the bottom line is we're growing cash. And like I said, we have companies that have been paying 6% plus dividends for 25 years plus. I'll show you the track record, the history, the charts, all of it. And have never missed dividends since before the Civil War, literally. So we're talking about long, strong dividend payers, right? So we're not doing it. I mean, the 6% long-term, consistent, tax favored is all well and good. That's all nice. But we're not talking about considering that versus whatever you're doing. Because if you are getting a 7 or 10% rate of return elsewhere, why would you take the dollars and put them over here and make 6? I mean, understood there's some guarantees involved. There's tax benefits involved. There's consistency. All that's nice and all that's positive and good. But if you have a higher rate elsewhere and you've experienced success with that and expect to continue to do so, why would you switch? You wouldn't, nor would I recommend you to. Remember what I said at the beginning. Keep doing what you're doing if it's working. But how can you use this tool to enhance what you're doing? Now that's a different discussion. Here's how it works. You put the funds in the policy first. Then you access the funds from the bank line of credit and purchase the asset, the investment you're doing. What happens? Remember, the dividends, long-term history, 6% plus. The rates to access the funds from the bank line are in 3 to 3.95, depending on the amount of funds. So we're talking about So if you put the money in the policy, then access to the bank line of credit, your earnings, you're getting credited 6, and you're getting charged in the 3s. What's happening to your money? You're keeping the difference, right? You're keeping about 2 to 3% difference, aren't you? So you're getting a 2 to 3% positive arbitrage. But what did I tell you to do with the money? Take it and invest it in your investment, right? Now, if your investment, as we stated at the beginning, rate of return was 7%, it would still be 7%, right? But now you can add another 2 or 3% positive arbitrage. to the exact same investment. Folks, what I'm talking about here is increasing the rate of return on your investment by 20 or 30%. Think about that a minute. What would that do over a period of time? Let's say you increased your rate of return from, instead of making 7 on average, now you're making 9 or 10 on average every year. If that's what you were making every year previously, you're going to, that's not changing, right? Now you're adding 2 or 3% to it. Even if your rate of return was 10% on your other investment and you incorporated the bank line of credit, or your personal bank concept, using the policy and the bank line of credit to get the positive arbitrage, you would now increase your rate of return to 12, 13, wouldn't you? Folks, that's a 20 to 30% increase in your overall rate of return. Folks, that's massive. And why is that so massive? Think about this a minute. As I stated in the beginning, when you were looking to invest in the first place, you analyzed various investments. You considered the rate, the risk tolerance, and all those various factors, the tax consequences, and everything else to determine what you thought was a reasonable rate of return. If you went through that analysis process and you were looking at 2 different investments and you expected one was going to give you a 7% average rate and another was going to give you 10, with similar attributes, everything else being similar, where would you put your money? That's a no-brainer, isn't it? So what I'm saying is keep doing what you're doing. If it works, keep doing it. Just enhance it, turbocharge it. Use the personal bank concept to increase and enhance the returns on what you're doing, on what's working. Okay? That's what we're talking about. If you want more information or have any questions, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. And as always, stay tuned to the Your Personal Bank show on Money Radio.
Listen Tuesday at noon and Thursdays at 1 for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.